this is what it looks like when you don't take care of your sheep.
Oh, that's the one that
It's
kept
really
hiding.
heavy too.
Yeah. Poor
He
creature.
kept hiding in the pastures whenever they went around, like whenever the farmer went around to like shear him. He like kept hiding for like months on end.
Yeah, vegans bitch the fuck out, you know?
Yeah, I don't understand that why vegans wouldn't wear wool when it's like cruel to not shear sheep. Like what?
Yes, they are literally like our entire sort of process of life has been intertwined with these animals, and they depend on us as much as we depend on them.
I guess the vegans wanted to be this mutual partnership where the animals go their own way and the humans go their own way, but then they'd have to probably eradicate all the animals that have any dependency on humans, and then just agree from that point that all the humans and animals, we will not interact. But I don't know, like throughout history, there's always been kind of some partnership. I mean, with horses, it's weird because horses kind of look like they're designed to be ridden on, just in terms of their shape. But it's still like, I know that my friend Alexander Nevzorov, in fact, this is another video that I'm going to put up here. My friend Alexander Nevzorov, who is also very famous in various Russian circles, he figured out a way that you can ride a horse without any pain at all. Because the points that he was making about the horses was that a lot of the horse riders, even if they love the horses and everything like that, they still end up using very bad instruments on these horses that hurt. So the following video over here, I guess today is going to be kind of like a video showing stream. This film is not an educational publication. It is intended to be viewed by and sold to the public only. Yeah. Okay, let's get to the good stuff. So, and this is going to be an opportunity for me to also tell everybody to subscribe. Here we go. Look at this. So even though there's no sound here, you can tell the relationship that he's having with this horse, how incredibly close they are, and how he's able to get this horse to do all these different things without inflicting any kind of pain at all, you know?
Wait, are we doing another furry stream? Is that what we're doing right now?
Close to it. I mean, this is kind of what the furries would dream of being in a way, or the kind of relationship they would dream to be able to have. Because I have never seen something like this in my entire life. When it comes to, I mean, just look at the way this horse is able to move. Like
it's a lot more humane than the Vienna dancing school, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the horse is just kind of. Yeah.
Sorry, if I could just make my entrance here. My name is Morgan for everybody that's, and you know, one of the things I think is kind of fundamental to understanding this problem of like, you know, the animal cruelty that we're facing is this very deep misunderstanding of like, what is the purpose of man? Like what was made, like what is man's relationship to nature? And I think, you know, because I'm very much hanging out in a either non-Christian circle, like, when we look at, you know, the purpose of the creationship of man was to be a steward over all of these things. And, you know, that stewardship comes with a responsibility that is to make sure that these animals are taken care of in a humane and respectful way that shows the dignity of these animals as a part of creation. And
I guess in the modern sense, we've sort of lost a lot of that. I mean, we don't have a connection to our food supply. Not only, you know, I mean, fruits and veggies, of course, but animals especially. It's like, you don't know where your chicken came from. You don't know where the steak came from. This country, was it a month old?
I do know where my chicken came from because I drive. I would have
Great.
Fear has been cooking.
We'll say the vast majority, their connection to food is when they go to the supermarket.
Well, this is kind of like a fundamental, like this kind of plays into it. And like one of the things that we've realized as we've moved into modernity and the school of thought that came out of it was this radical redefinition of forms. And one of those forms of humanity that came out of it was this very vapid cruelty that completely divorces man.
The industrialized version.
Well, that everything is.
Well,
oh, go ahead.
Not even the industrial, but the Enlightenment era. It goes before the Industrial Revolution. But the reason for this is because of, like, whenever in the Enlightenment you have the elevation of reason above all faculties, that are possible for mankind to have, you essentially place man in a category of his own because no other animal has a way to reason. So by creating this divorce on an intellectual basis, you subserventize rather than mutualize man's relationship to the creation of which he's supposed to be a steward over.
Is that
and if
maybe
you lose that connection, it's
Yeah.
very dehumanizing, I guess.
But that's like the essence of instrumental reason that came from the Enlightenment, that man is dominant over nature. Which I mean, I agree that I think like the problem with a lot of deep ecologists, they blame the Christian worldview of specifically of Genesis, but I do feel that there is a space of the interpretation of man shall inherit the earth that is really like you said, a stewardship. But when it comes to the product of instrumental reason from the Enlightenment, it really is like what Heidegger talked about within framing. Like everything just becomes standing reserve. Like life itself, like even it's like we subjugate the animals because they're just standing reserve. They're just like a stock to like breed and mass and like feed the yeast people. And then we ourselves become standing reserve because we become like human capital.
That's the elite.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same principle used on us, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all
what goes around comes around.
Yeah. And this is why, Horkheimer and Adorno, they in the Dialectic of Enlightenment, they talk about Marquis de Sade being like the ultimate expression of the Enlightenment project. And some people look at that like, oh my God, that's terrible. What about human rights, man? It's like, no, but like what de Sade was trying to get at was the human becoming like totally instrumentalized as just like a series of holes to exploit. It's nothing to do with like these like modern BDSM people that talk about like the limit experience or whatever. It's more to do with like the logic of like turning the subject into something that's malleable and manipulatable. And because we've turned nature into that, we ourselves have also become that. So it's really fucking crazy stuff. Like, and there's a certain personality that goes along with it as well. Like the people that like they have this fetishism over quantity and the reign of quantity and progress, and it's like how many economic units and how many widgets can we push out to the masses and all of this stuff. It's really just kind of alienating to people who still have an instinct left. I don't mean to sound like an elitist, although I am, but like, you know.
Well, no, I think there's a good point in there. And it's like, it's funny because when we're talking about the dialectic and contextualization, Geo, it's a meme in the sphere that we run in, but it's like, you'll read it, men don't have rights, they have duties.
Yes,
well,
exactly.
If you want to like, give that a more, outside of that limited sphere, you can say that man exists within context, and that context is what he has to fulfill first and foremost. Sort of the providential plan, so to speak.
Is that a Jordan Peterson thinking?
It's a mixture of
I think I've seen that theme before.
It's a mixture of his language, but I'm driving primarily from Hans Urs von Balthasar and some of his language in the Theodrama, because the freedom of mankind is limited based on the context in which we are given, but because we've, as Kaczynski talked about the rapid compartmentalization of labor, we've created contexts where it pays to really break everything down to its smallest level of context, because by that point, when we create that smallest level of context, there is no duty, so to speak, outside of that context. It's this real big diminishing of the nature of man himself.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny, we were talking about before with Aryan Cowboy, we were talking about who was it, Lev? You were talking about how different tribes, they have like the sky burials, and they or the Agori rub the ooze
ash
from their the ash from their dead relatives. In a lot of different places throughout the world, like even in certain tribes that do this in the Philippines. They have sky coffin burials where they lash the coffins next to the cliffside. And what they do is that the sort of black ooze, the ash like seeps, and they have this ritual where they rub it on their face and everything. But the reason I bring this up is because in Jodorowsky's film The Holy Mountain, which everyone should see by now.
Definitely.
There's this one scene where the architect creates the perfect city of the future called Freedomville, where it's rows upon rows of sky coffins where you basically eat in the factory and like you do everything else, and then you really just go home to sleep at night, and you go in the sky coffin apartment, and it's like basically miles high. And it's really clever the way he did it, because I had this like Autistic Mercury article back in the day where I talk about this and how he inverted. It was like Jodorowsky, he predicted the future like logic of the pod existence, like eating the bugs and living in a pod, because now it's like everyone takes this like original like pagan spiritual ritual, and now it's like inverted, and it becomes like this product of like cattle humanity in the stockyard, and like capital rendering us into like these pod existence like bug men. So I think that's like really the logic of a lot of these people, like a lot of these neoliberals in particular. It's like the bug man logic of like living in a pod, right? Living in the Borg hive.